So, welcome to the 23rd lecture in ME303 heat transfer. We've been talking about convection, the energy equation. In the last lecture, I talked about the non dimensionalization of the energy equation, and I showed you how the Nusselt number depends on the Reynolds number and the Prandtl number. I'm talking about the average Nusselt number in this case for a flat plate. And today we'll be working out with the energy equation, solving it for a flat plate situation for a laminar case, and then finding out this functional dependence for this particular case. So we'll be seeing how this Nusselt number, which is nothing but the non-dimensionalized form of H, depends on my Reynolds number and my Prandtl number. So let's, for a quick recall, write our equation, the energy equation. Okay, so this has been our energy equation, and today we want to solve it for this flat plate situation of ours, where we have a thermal boundary layer developing over the flat plate, and this is at zero angle of incidence with the free stream flow. So we write it U infinity comma T infinity. Okay, if you remember from fluid mechanics, you used the Blasius method of similarity to solve for the U and V in this boundary layer. Okay, so the idea is to use a similar, the same similarity solution. So what we'll do is we'll do a quick recap of what we did in fluid mechanics to when we use the Blasius similarity solution, and then it will be very easy and very quick to understand the same idea in solving for this energy equation. So in your fluid mechanics, you solved the x and y momentum equations using the similarity idea. So if I quickly write the x momentum equation, so this was our x momentum equation for this flat plate. So there's no pressure term here because dp infinity by dx is 0 for a flat plate situation. Now in this case, what the similarity idea said was that if this is my velocity boundary layer, then at different x positions, so let's take two different x positions. So this is u infinity, and then of course we have the no slip condition on the surface. So in this case, what the similarity idea says that if I take any point, let's say for discussion, I take a point which is at the center of this line from y equal to 0 to y equal to delta for this x value. So this is in the center of this vertical line. Okay. So I find the u value corresponding to this y value, which is in the center of the boundary layer thickness for that x value. Then the ratio of u to u infinity is going to be a function of the ratio of y and the boundary layer thickness at that x value. It's an extremely important idea. So if I take for the second case here, I again take a point in the center of this vertical line. So what I'll see is that my u value will be the same as what I found in the u value on um, the left hand side vertical line. Okay, so the ratio of the u value to the maximum u value, which is in the top, is simply a function of the ratio of the y value to the thickness of the boundary layer in that for that x value. Okay, so this is called the similarity idea, and this is the idea that is used to obtain the analytical solution for the velocity in the boundary layer region. Okay. So what we typically do in the method of similarity. So we define well a stream function. So you know what a stream function is. So we define this stream function as this stream function as square root u infinity nu x times a function of eta. So this eta here is our similarity parameter. So this is given as y upon delta, where delta is the boundary layer thickness, and we also know we can in fact show using the order of magnitude analysis to estimate this boundary layer thickness delta, and this delta goes as square root nu x upon u infinity. So this is something we already have seen from our fluid mechanics, that delta goes as square root nu times x upon u infinity. So if I define my similarity parameter as y upon delta, so then substituting this expression for delta, this becomes y times square root u infinity upon nu times x. Okay, so this is my similarity parameter. So what I'll try to say, what I want to show is that my u upon u infinity is simply a function of eta. Okay, so this is nothing but, this thing is nothing but eta now. Okay, so since we defined this stream function, which is psi, so we can use this stream function to calculate the x and y velocities, that is u and v. So let's show how to calculate u. So u, as you know, in terms of stream function, is simply del psi by del y. So if I substitute this expression for psi, so I simply get u infinity upon nu x, because we had a y multiplied by this expression. So del psi by del y simply becomes u infinity upon nu x square root. Oh, sorry, we also had an f. I forgot about the f. So we had a function of eta. So then we have del, sorry. Sorry, I made a mistake here. So this is what my psi was. So I'm doing a del by del y of this whole expression. So since I can treat all this as a constant, so I have del by del y of f, but f is simply a function of eta. So I can use the chain rule and write this as df upon d eta times del eta upon del y. Okay, so df by d eta I'll write as f prime, and then del eta by del y then becomes u infinity upon nu x, because eta was u infinity upon nu x square root times y. Okay, so we can cancel out our nu and x here. So this simply becomes u infinity times f prime. Okay, so this is my u. Okay, so what this tells me is that u upon u infinity, if I take u infinity on the left hand side, is simply f prime, which is a function of eta only. Okay, so this is then if I call this f prime as phi as a function, and eta, as you remember, was nothing but y upon delta. So my similarity idea holds here. Okay, so it's the other way around. So to ensure that the similarity idea holds, we chose a stream function in that way. Okay, so for this choice of stream function, our similarity idea works, and this is exactly what we did. And then we also found out the v value, which was nothing but del psi by del x. And then this was again in terms of your f prime and x and y, and then we substituted the expression for u v, and then del u by del x, and then del u by del y, and the second derivative of u with respect to y, all of these into the x momentum equation. And the x momentum equation simply turned out, along with the boundary condition, of course. So this simply became an ordinary differential equation. Okay, so for this particular choice of our similarity parameter, eta, which ensures that our similarity idea works, we sorry we ended up getting this ODE. So this is the third one, two, three. Okay, so this equation actually is called the Blasius equation. All right, and the boundary conditions for this case, remember, this is a function of eta only. So for eta equal to 0, which is, I mean, remember eta was defined as okay. So this is how we define eta. So for the boundary condition that eta equals 0, which means at y equal to 0 or at x tending to infinity. So at y equal to 0, we know that our u and v both are 0. So u being 0 gave us f prime was 0, and v being 0, we can see that f becomes 0. Okay, so this gives us two conditions at eta equal to 0. Remember, it's a third order ODE, so we need to find out three constants. And the other boundary condition we had was for eta tending to infinity, which is, inside the free stream region. There, our f prime, which is f prime, remember, so if I go back, then my f prime from this equation is nothing but u upon u infinity. So in the free stream region, u is equal to u infinity. So f prime is 1. So this was our system, a well-posed system that we had to solve, and this in fact was solved by Blasius as a series solution around eta equal to 0. So I won't write that here, but later in this lecture, when I start solving the energy equation for my temperature, then I will write this solution later. But remember that this f was obtained by solving this as a series solution around eta equal to 0. So now assuming that we have found out Blasius's series solution around eta equal to 0, so that gives us the value of f as a function of eta, the actual functional form. And from this, we can now find our u and y, u and v, using the stream function, which depends on f. So we can find, so we found the velocity, and then we can find the boundary layer thickness as a function, how it varies, well, exactly the value of that. So remember that we define the boundary layer in such a way so that, sorry, so that u upon u infinity is 0.99. Okay, so when the value of u reaches 0.99 or 99% of u infinity, that is where we call the boundary layer thickness. Beyond that, we have the free stream. So if we do that, this means that our f prime is equal to, because remember u upon u infinity was f prime, so f prime is 0.99. So once since we know the f is a function of eta now, so we can find f prime is a function of eta, put that equal to 0.99, and we get the value of eta corresponding to that. So that corresponds to eta approximately as 5.0 for this flat plate situation. So that means eta, remember, was y upon delta. This is 5.0, and this means that my y, which is the y value for this boundary layer thickness, is defined as 5.0 times delta, and this delta is as we know varies as nu x upon u infinity. Okay, actually, we sometimes call this boundary layer thickness as delta, but remember the delta that we have been using is, I mean, the functional form, how it varies, how the boundary layer thickness varies as a function of nu x and u infinity. That delta is obtained from the order of magnitude analysis, so that will not give us the value of the constant. So that constant is 5.0, and this is quite close to the actual boundary layer thickness we receive, we see. Okay. So this was a quick recap of what we do in fluid mechanics to solve for the velocity in the boundary layer. And again, once we have f as a function of eta, then that can be used to easily find the value of the wall shear stress, and from that you can get the skin friction coefficient, because all of them depend ultimately on our u and v and their gradients. Great. So this is the end of the recap of fluid mechanics in a boundary layer. Now remember the aim of this lecture. Let's go back and have a look. Was to solve for this energy equation. Okay. So today we want to solve for this equation. So we will use the same similarity idea. Okay, so the idea of similarity for our temperature. Now, what we do is, as earlier, we non-dimensionalize the temperature. So we define a theta, which is 0 at the plate. So this is T minus T surface upon, well, we've been calling it T surface minus T upon T surface minus T infinity. So in this case, we are assuming that the surface is hot as compared to the free stream fluid. So this is how we've been defining theta. So theta, that means varies from 0 to 1 inside the boundary layer as we go up vertically. So theta is between 0 and 1. Okay, so the idea of similarity is that theta is some function of y upon delta. In this case, we have delta t, because we're talking about the thermal boundary layer. Okay, so if we were to see this theta, so this theta goes from 0 to t. So we have something like this. Sorry, okay, so this theta goes from 0 to 1. This is 1. Okay, so this theta is a function purely of y upon delta t. So if I was to stand in the middle of these vertical lines, then I would get theta exactly as 0.5 because y upon delta t is exactly 0.5. So this is how we use the idea of similarity in the temperature boundary layer. And remember this y upon delta t we've been calling as eta. So we call this as eta again. Okay. Now your eta is the same eta as we defined earlier. Although this is for the boundary layer, the thermal boundary layer, but we still use the same. The order of magnitude analysis gives us the same same eta here. Okay. So for simplicity, we simply will write delta here. Okay. Let's not confuse ourselves. So this is delta. I mean, we will later see that this delta will the thermal thickness will be different from the momentum thickness. But since we are using the same eta as earlier, so we should actually call this delta here. Okay, so don't worry about this too much here. We'll discuss it again. We'll come back to this later again. So again, similar ideas, and remember that towards the end of the previous lecture, we mentioned that we are decoupling the momentum and the energy equations. So that means we can solve for the momentum equation first in this boundary layer region, and that is exactly what we have done in this lecture. We have found out the values of u and v in terms of f and f primes and so on. And once you do that, since now we have the expressions for u and v, we can substitute that in the energy equation because that expression already is known in terms of f, and then we can then solve for theta. Okay, so when we substitute the expressions for u and v into the energy equation, so when we substitute that, we get a differential equation, an ordinary differential equation for theta. Now remember that theta is only a function of eta, as we have shown from this similarity idea for the energy equation. This is the equation for the ODE that we obtain for theta by using the similarity idea in the energy equation. Okay, so this has been obtained by substituting for u and v in terms of f. So you can do it easily, and then you can get this equation. And we also need the boundary conditions. We need two boundary conditions because we have a second order ODE for temperature for theta here. So the first one is remember at y equal to 0, you had t equal to t surface. Well, we don't need to write that because we already have discussed the boundary condition. So for eta equal to 0, that is on the surface, we have theta equal to 0. And for eta tending to infinity, that is in the free stream, our theta becomes 1. Okay, so we have to solve this well posed problem in the next coming part of the lecture. It's not that complicated because we already have we can easily solve for this. So let's call d theta by d eta. Let's substitute as some function p of eta. Okay, so our OD simply becomes dp by d eta plus half times Prandtl number times f eta times p. Well, let's simply write f, although we know it's a function of eta. And this is 0. So I can separate the variables now. So Prandtl number is a constant for a given fluid. And then we have f times d eta. And then we can integrate that. Now remember that f is a function of eta, so that has to stay inside the integral. And this has to be integrated from, we're talking about the boundary layer somewhere, so it has to be integrated from 0 to some eta. So let's call this eta tilde. So we integrate this from eta tilde equal to 0 to eta tilde equal to some eta. Similarly, our p, which is d theta by d eta, goes from p as at 0, which is eta tilde equal to 0, and then for p at some eta. So this becomes the natural log of p, and then p minus p naught. So this becomes p upon p0. So I can take the exponential on both sides. So my p then becomes okay, so p becomes p naught times exponential of this whole expression. So now we can substitute p as d theta by d eta. So in fact, I can write this theta prime 0 Okay, so now we have to integrate this again. So let's write that again. So p, which was nothing but d theta by d eta, was found out to be theta prime at 0. Okay, so theta prime is again d theta by d eta. And then you have the exponential. So I've used eta tilde again here because the limits are going from eta tilde equal to 0 to eta tilde equal to eta. But remember that now we'll have to integrate this again to find d theta. So d theta can now be written as theta prime of eta. Now theta prime is again at eta equal to 0, so that's a constant. And then you have, well, the exponential term. So it is clear that f is a function of eta tilde, so we won't write that again and again. And now this has to be integrated. This is a flat plate. And now we're integrating this. The limits are, well, we need to have a d eta here. So the limits are from, again, eta equal to 0, which is corresponds to y equal to 0, that's the surface of the plate, to some distance inside the boundary layer. So that will be some arbitrary eta. Okay. So my theta will go from 0, because for eta equal to 0, my theta is 0. So on the surface, theta is 0, and in the free stream, my theta is 1. And then I go to some arbitrary theta, and I go to some arbitrary. So in this case, since I want to call this eta, so what I'll do is I will call this eta double tilde. Okay. Just for just so that my final variable, my final dependence of theta is only on eta. Okay. So usually I tend to check. So in this first integral, I integrate eta tilde, and everything comes out to be a function of eta double tilde. And then in my second integral, my eta tilde is integrated out, and then finally by putting the limit, I have everything in terms of this eta now. Okay. So eta is something I'm defining as going from well 0 to on the surface of the plate to eta. Okay, so this is theta at some eta. Okay, so this is our expression. So we have to integrate these expressions, and we can find our theta, and that was the aim. Remember that the aim was to find the theta dependence on eta, which was we were solving that ODE that we had obtained by using the similarity idea for temperature as well in the Blasius equations. So now we still need one constant, right? So in this case, we see that we obtained one constant of integration, which was theta prime at 0. So one needs to obtain that, and that can be obtained because we still haven't used our second boundary condition, which was at eta tending to infinity, that is in the free stream region. So we can apply that. So apply eta tending to infinity boundary condition to get theta prime 0. So the way we do that is now in this expression, we can write this as so we can write this as theta at eta, because we can see that we're integrating d theta, so we get theta minus 0, which is theta. Okay, so let's apply the boundary condition where at eta tending to infinity, your theta is equal to 1. So we apply that. So we on the right hand side, you have this theta. So I'll write on the left hand side now. So this becomes well, we can keep on the right hand side, that's okay. So the left hand side is theta prime 0, and then the integral goes from eta double tilde equal to 0 to eta double tilde equal to, well, tending to infinity, and everything else stays as it is. And this whole thing is equal to 1 after applying the boundary condition at eta tending to infinity. So that gives us the expression for theta prime at 0, which is simply 1 divided by, I'm a bit lazy here, so I'll simply copy this and paste it here. It's the fun thing about using smart devices. It's a must check I didn't miss out on anything. So this is my theta prime 0. Okay, so this theta prime 0 is now the constant value is known, and this can be substituted back into here
and we then get the theta as a function of eta in terms of all known values. Of course, you have to integrate this expression that you have here, which still remains to be done. So remember that even for theta prime, we need to integrate this expression, and this expression involves f, and this f is the same f which appeared in our boundary layer equations. Okay? So in the Blasius equation, and remember we also talked about in the beginning of the lecture, we said that for fluids, this nonlinear ODE that we obtained for f was solved by Blasius in terms of an infinite series solution around eta equal to 0. So I told you that I'll write that later. So now we need that to be able to solve for theta prime 0. So the f obtained by Blasius is written as an infinite series solution in eta Okay, so this is the infinite series solution where this alpha is a constant, which is 0.332. So the job now is, since we know f, which is a function of eta, we know the analytic form of this function as an infinite series in terms of eta. So we can substitute that into this expression and integrate it and get the value of this expression. And we can do the same in this expression here, and again integrate and get the value of the integral in terms of eta, because the limits are here in terms of eta. So the only difference between these two expressions is that this one has a limit at infinity, and the one above has a limit at eta. So in fact, Polhausen carried out the integration, the integral that you have for theta prime numerically. So Polhausen carried out the integration numerically to find out the value of theta prime at eta equals 0, that's on the plate surface. And we won't discuss the solution that he obtained, but for Prandtl number values greater than 0.5, the relation, the formula that I'll write, and that is theta prime at eta equal to 0 is 0.332 times Prandtl number to the power 0.343. Okay, so this empirical formula, this fits in the theta prime 0 quite well based on the data obtained by Polhausen. So Polhausen did everything numerically, so of course he got numbers, but this formula fits in those numbers quite well for Prandtl number values greater than 0.5. Okay. All right, so this expression for theta prime 0 is quite useful. In fact, what is usually done is that this Prandtl number to the power 0.343 is approximated as Prandtl number to the power 1 by 3. Okay. And this relationship is used quite a lot for fluids with Prandtl number greater than 0.5. So air for reference has a Prandtl number of 0.7. So it's quite useful. This expression is quite useful for air. Now remember that this theta prime 0 is quite useful, because theta prime 0 is nothing but d theta by d eta at eta equal to 0. Okay, so this can be used for calculating our heat transfer coefficient. Because let's do that. So the heat transfer coefficient was minus kf del T by del Y at Y equals to 0 divided by Ts minus T infinity. So this is the definition of H from Newton's law of cooling when we balance the conduction and the convection because of the Newton's law of cooling model. So this now we can use the non-dimensional ideas. I think we already have done that. So I'm just repeating that. So this gives me kf, and then we get a square root u infinity upon nu x. And then you have d theta by d eta at eta equal to 0. Okay, so remember the definition of theta has been used. So theta is Ts minus T upon Ts minus T infinity. So that gives theta equal to 0 on the surface and theta equal to 1 in the free stream. And then we use the definition of eta, which is y times square root u infinity upon nu x. Okay, so that was the similarity variable we started with. Just confirm that. Yeah. So if we use these two and substitute them here, so this is what we will get. Similar to what we did for fluids for calculating the skin friction coefficient. Okay. So what we can see is that we can write the heat transfer coefficient H in terms of theta prime at 0. So that is the reason theta prime at 0 is quite useful when doing the analysis in heat transfer convection. Okay, so if I have my d theta by d eta equal to 0, so I can use that to find the H. So in fact, for this H, we can simplify things a bit further. Remember, we talked about the Nusselt number, which was nothing but the H times L by K for the fluid. And now that was a Nusselt number for a length L of the plate. So if I want to define a Nusselt number based on local H value, so that is H times X by Kf, that's something we call the Nusselt number. So this is the H at some distance X in the plate. So this we tend to write this as Nusselt number with the subscript X. That means the local Nusselt number. So if I do that, then that gives us an X on the top and nu. Okay, and then you have your theta prime at 0. And remember, this u infinity x by nu is nothing but the Reynolds number based on the length x. Okay, so this is nothing but Reynolds number. We will use the subscript x because Reynolds number requires a length. In some cases, we use REL, which is for the whole length of the plate. And there's a square root, there's a half here. And then theta prime 0, we can use this expression that we just wrote above. So this becomes 0.332. And you have Prandtl number to the power 1 by 3. Okay, so this expression is quite important for Nusselt number x. So this tells us that, remember, in the last lecture we said that from the non-dimensional analysis that my Nusselt number, the local Nusselt number is some function, well, some function, that's a g of my Reynolds number and Prandtl number. Okay, well, x Reynolds number and Prandtl number. Okay, sorry. So we can see that this local Nusselt number is again a function of our Reynolds number and Prandtl number. Okay, so we have indeed found out the functional form for the Nusselt number as a function of Reynolds and Prandtl number. Okay, so this is a local Nusselt number, and in many cases you would want the average Nusselt number, which is nothing but based on the h value for the whole length of the plate. Now remember that there are sometimes a confusion. So sometimes we write a Nusselt number, which is the local h value times L by Kf, and sometimes you write we use the local Nusselt number, which is h times x by Kf, and sometimes we use the average Nusselt number, which is h bar times L by Kf. So one has to be careful as to which expression for Nusselt number is being used. But remember, ultimately everything is used to find the value of the heat transfer coefficient. So one must be careful as to which one is being referred to. So anyways, so now we would want to find h bar. So h bar, if you remember, for a plate is 1 upon L integral h dx, and this is from 0 to L. So we can simplify this expression. So integral 0 to L, and then the expression for h we just now found out was theta prime, which is 0.332, and then you have a kf square root okay, so this is your theta prime, and then you have your kf times square root u infinity by nu x. I've used this expression for finding the h value. For this value of h has been substituted to find the h bar here. Okay. So 0.332 times Prandtl number to the power 1 by 3 times kf. So all of these are not a function of x, and then you have u infinity by nu, and then you also have an L here. Okay, so this becomes x to the power of minus half plus 1, that is plus half, divided by plus half. So there's a 2 here, and you put the limits from 0 to L. Okay, so this becomes twice, and then you have L to the power of half minus 0. Okay, then we have the whole thing. So I can club this 2 with this constant, so this becomes 0.664, and then this L to the power half, and sorry, so these two will give us L to the power of minus half, so that is square root. So we have a square root with u infinity, and then you have L here. We still have a kf, and we still have a Prandtl number to the power 1 by 3. Okay, so this then what I can do is I can multiply the expression and divide by L. Okay. So this then can be taken inside the square root, the one in the numerator. So this becomes u infinity L square by nu L. Then you have a 1 by L here. So this becomes u infinity, no, sorry, u infinity L by nu, and then you still have a 1 by L. Okay, so this expression u infinity L by nu, that is the Reynolds number defined on the length L. So then we get a Reynolds number. Sorry. So Re to the power of ReL to the power of half. We still have a Prandtl number to the power 1 by 3, and then we have 0.664, and then I'll write Kf by L separately, and this is h bar. Remember, this was h bar. So again, Nusselt number, which was h bar L by Kf. So this Nu bar for L. So we write L because we are using the length L here. So this is nothing but h bar L by Kf, which is 0.664. In fact, this is mark this one. So this is extremely useful for us when we're trying to find out the average heat transfer coefficient, which is written in terms of the average Nusselt number. So if you look at this expression, which I'll call B, and this expression which we call A, so in the difference between A and B is algebraically you have this Reynolds number here that is based on X, whereas the Reynolds number here is based on L. So what I can say is that the Nusselt number, average Nusselt number based on the length L, is twice the local Nusselt number based on X for X equal to L. Okay. And remember this NUX simply is telling us the Nusselt number based on length X. Okay. And this is the average Nusselt number based on length L. And remember, we know that in a flat plate in the laminar zone, the if I was to plot the H value as a function of X, then it starts off with a very high value in the beginning of the boundary layer because it's very thin, and then it drops down because the gradient del T by del Y goes down as you go from left to right in the plate. Okay, so if I was to find the average value of H in a region and compare that with the local value of H, so this average, which is going to be somewhere, let's say here, is definitely going to be more than the local value here. So in this case, we get this nice relation like this one. Okay. And this all was for Prandtl number greater than 0.5, because this expression for theta prime as 0.332 times Prandtl number to the power 1 by 3 was only fitting the Paulhagen results for Prandtl number greater than 0.5. But of course, you may have situations like, for example, liquid metals, where the Prandtl number actually is very small. Remember, we talked about so it's so we mentioned earlier that for liquid metals, your Prandtl number is much less than 1 because Prandtl number, which was delta upon delta T, or this was Prandtl number to the power some positive constant. So if for liquid metals the thermal diffusivity is much higher than the momentum diffusivity, so that's the reason. Sorry, Prandtl number is defined as nu by alpha. So for liquid metals, your alpha is much higher than nu. So that means that the diffusion of energy is much higher than the diffusion of momentum. So typically for liquid metals, your Prandtl number actually is between 0.006 and 0.03. So as we discussed, that this results in our thermal boundary layer being much larger than the momentum boundary layer, because the energy diffuses much further as compared to the momentum. So if that is the case, so if I was to draw this situation, so let's say you have your delta, and this was your delta T. And if I would even exaggerate further, so your delta T is much larger than delta. So what that means is when I'm doing calculations for drawing control volumes, for doing the calculations for the boundary layer for temperature, in most of the region of my boundary layer, I can see that my U is equal to U infinity, because the U only varies in this momentum boundary layer. Okay, so for most of the analysis which is happening, for the most of the thermal analysis which is happening in this blue region, my U can be taken as U infinity. Okay? So what we tend to do is we when solving the thermal boundary layer, we simply substitute U equals U infinity in the beginning of the analysis. Instead of writing U as del psi by del y, we simply put U equals U infinity and proceed. So that makes the analysis much easier. Okay, so for this U equals U infinity. And what that means, because remember, U upon U infinity was some function, was in fact f prime. That's how we defined this f. So if my U is U infinity, then that means my f prime is 1. So in my ODE, I can use my f prime equal to 1. This means, so that's for most of the region inside the boundary layer. So that helps us solve the integrals quite comfortably. I won't do that, but just wanted to mention that. And again, by using Polhausen's method, we can show that the Nusselt number x in this case, which was 0.332 times Re to the power of half times Prandtl number to the power 1 by 3, in this case is slightly different. So you have Re x to the power of half, which is same as earlier, but this time you have Prandtl number to the power of half instead of 1 by 3. Okay, so this is for liquid metals. So now if we plot the theta as a function of eta, so let me write, so theta is Ts minus T upon Ts minus T infinity, and eta was square root U infinity by nu x times y. So if we plot this, let's also put some scales here. So what we see is that we get some plot like this. Oops. So this value is 1.0. So theta goes from 0 to 1. Then it gets steeper and steeper. Okay, so this is your Prandtl number of 1. This is Prandtl number 3. This is 10. This is 50. And then you have again something like 1000, so on. So this is the functional variation of theta as a function of eta. Okay, so for Prandtl number equal to what we are seeing is that the lines get steeper and steeper, and that makes sense. Well, I have not drawn it very nicely, but what you see is, if you see the slope, remember theta prime. Okay, that theta prime is nothing but the slope of this line at eta equal to 0. So the slope gets steeper and steeper as you increase the Prandtl number. And this makes sense because mathematically our theta prime of 0 was proportional to Prandtl number to the power 1 by 3. So this is all Prandtl number values greater than 0.5. So our first expression is applicable, and that makes sense. So our theta prime is increasing, and that theta prime increasing means that we have more rate of heat transfer. The rate of heat transfer increases as you increase your Prandtl number values. So for higher Prandtl number values, we also know that, if I was to compare, let's say, two Prandtl number values, and higher value of Prandtl number would mean that my thermal boundary layer is much smaller than my momentum boundary layer. So if my thermal boundary layer was extremely small, so these are 2 delta T. For this is for Prandtl number small, and this is Prandtl number large. So what we see here is that for this large Prandtl number value, the thermal boundary layer is very thin. So that means it has to the temperature has to go from Ts to T infinity in a smaller vertical distance. Whereas for the same value of x, my temperature has to go from Ts to T infinity in a larger distance. So that means the gradients or the slopes in the large Prandtl number values are going to be much larger than the slopes for smaller Prandtl numbers. That also tells us that matches our intuition here, that with increasing Prandtl number values, our rate of heat transfer Q is increasing. So this completes our discussion on the flat plate thermal boundary layer solution. So if I do a very quick recap as to what we've done, we have been always staying in the laminar flow regime. Okay, so we still haven't talked about the turbulent flows. So in this laminar flow regime, let's just summarize that. So for laminar flows, and for a particular problem of flat plate boundary layer with 0 angle of incidence. Okay. So we have been dealing with the situation. So we developed the equations we showed some non-dimensional analysis. Some similarity parameters were shown, Reynolds number and Prandtl number, and we showed the functional dependence of the Nusselt number on these parameters. And then for this situation of a flat plate boundary layer with laminar flows, we actually solved the equations. We didn't completely solve it, but I showed you the integral that we get, which was solved numerically by Paul Hausen, and then we showed you an empirical relation which matches that numerical solution. And from that empirical relation, we saw, we basically got the relation, the actual functional form for this flat plate boundary layer. But remember that this analysis, the non-dimensional analysis, was still valid for other geometries as well. Okay, because that discussion was more general, and the solution of this system of equations was specific to the flat plate zero angle of incidence, and this all was laminar flows. So this functional dependence of Nusselt number is was demonstrated. So if I use NU bar, which is more common because we tend to find the complete heat transfer rate of heat transfer. So this was dependent on REL, and this particular F was found out for flat plates. So what we'll do now is we will try to find out this NU bar for other geometries. Okay, so we'll typically what is done is that people do lots of experiments, and they have developed lots of correlations fitting the Prandtl number. So they have data, and from that data they fit in correlations, and so they find out NU bar is a function. So that functional form is found out for that particular geometry. So this is so we'll see lots of correlations for shapes which are commonly used, and then as engineers we tend to use them when solving problems, when we're trying to find out the rate of heat transfer for different design problems. And then after that we'll move on to turbulent flows, because even if we stay with that flat plate and we go beyond a certain distance, certain x value, then we'll see that the flow will transition to turbulent regime, where the story changes. Okay, so there's lots of mixing that happens in turbulent flows in the boundary layer. And if you remember for the flat plate, when you had the turbulent region, then in that turbulent region, so if this region was turbulent, then you tend to you got a profile which was very flat, and then towards the very end it was extremely steep. Okay. So if you remember, this region was called the viscous sublayer. We'll talk about this more in the next coming lectures. So what we see is that because of all that mixing, we get very sharp gradients here, both in velocity and in temperature. So that means the rate of heat transfer increases a lot as the flow becomes turbulent, and that makes sense because it causes a lot of mixing, turbulence. So we tend to get very high rate of heat transfer out of the plate into the fluid. Okay, so the next discussion will be on turbulent flows, and then again we will we won't solve the equations for turbulent flows because that is extremely difficult, if possible at all. And so what we'll do is we will straight away jump to giving you correlations for different geometries for turbulent flows for the average Nusselt number values, and then we'll solve a lot different problems where we'll use these correlations. We will try to first understand what sort of flow regime is there, and then we will solve problems based on using the right or the most applicable form of the Nusselt number correlation that is available to us. Okay, so I'll stop here and then I'll continue the discussion in the next lecture. Thank you.